It's officially the countdown to Halloween, and I'm here to tell you the 31 horror movies I plan to watch to celebrate. It was really hard to narrow it down to 31 movies, as it is every year, and I'm sure my choices will change throughout the month. I'll stray from my list, I'll add in some new additions along the way. So this list features some heavy hitters, some usual suspects, and some new additions. The first movie on my 31 Days of Horror list is Deadstream. So this came out on Shudder last year, and it's about a disgraced YouTuber who decides to win back his audience by hosting a overnight investigation in an infamous haunted house. And he live streams the entire thing. And over the course of his stream, he encounters some vengeful spirits and things go horribly wrong. I think it's incredibly funny, and it mixes that humor and campiness with the horror perfectly well. The next movie on my list is a new release from this year, and that is Cobweb. This movie centers on a young boy who hears knocking on his bedroom wall at night, and he tells his parents about it, and they kind of disregard it and tell him that it's all just in his imagination. But over the course of the film, he starts to question what's going on, and he thinks that his parents are hiding a terrible secret. This one was so unexpected. It's so fun, and it's set around Halloween. It has that perfect Halloween atmosphere. It's surprisingly violent and really gory, and the last act is insane. It's basically Goosebumps for the older generation meets Barbarian meets Malignant, and I love it so much. I think it's the perfect Halloween watch. Then we have another new release from last year, and this one is Barbarian. So this is a horror movie that surprised me when it came out last year. It was my #1 pick for last year, best horror movie of the year. This has a simple setup. It's about a young woman who arrives at her Airbnb and she learns that there's a man already staying there. But she's kind of stuck in the situation. She doesn't really know what to do, so she decides to stay the night, and things go crazy from there. And it's not what you expected at all. This story is so layered and so crazy and just completely unexpected and so much fun. Another movie that released last year that I'm adding to my list of Halloween movies this year is Smile. Smile is about a young therapist who has a traumatic encounter with a patient. This patient kills herself in front of her, and it unleashes this strange curse onto her. So she spends the rest of the movie having these horrifying visions, and she's trying to figure out how to stop the curse before it's too late. Next on my list is Gonjiam Asylum. This is a found footage horror about a group of people who are filming for their YouTube reality series, and they decide that they're gonna live stream at this infamous haunted asylum. However, things don't go as planned. Then we have Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This is the perfect Halloween vibe of a movie. This is based on the best-selling children's book series of the same name, and it centers on a group of kids who wander into their town's infamous haunted house, and they find this book belonging to this girl who lived there. She was a witch, and they unleash a curse from the book, and that essentially unleashes all of the witch's stories, scary stories, onto the town, and they start to come to life. And we have the Autopsy of Jane Doe, which is from the same director of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Again, this has those perfect fall vibes. It's set in a family-run mortuary/morgue where a father and son coroner team receive a Jane Doe from the police, and they need to identify her cause of death by the next day. But as the evening goes on and they uncover more about this Jane Doe, things start getting strange around them, and it's absolutely terrifying. I think it's so much fun watching the mystery unfold, and it's a nice surprise when you learn what the mystery is. I think that the atmosphere and dread in this are perfect, and the performances from the two leads, including Brian Cox, are incredible, so it has to be a must-watch for me every year. Then we have a Halloween favorite of mine, Hellfest. Now this centers on a group of college kids who head out to a amusement park setting known as Hellfest, which is essentially like Halloween Horror Nights, but to the extreme. And while they're there, they're being stalked by this masked killer. And it's really fun. I love the lead actress in this. Her name is Amy Forsyth. She's been in Channel Zero and a few other horror things, and I think she's great. She's an underrated final girl, in my opinion. And I love watching the cat and mouse game, and I think it's got some interesting kills and just the coolest setting. I love the setting so much. Then we have a similar movie called Haunt, which is about a group of college kids on Halloween night who decide to pull over at this roadside attraction, and it's a roadside haunt. They don't know anything about it. They sign a waiver to get inside, and they have to hand over all of their cell phones, their keys, all of that stuff. So when they're inside, all seems normal, and then it goes wrong. And they realize that the people behind this haunt might be hiding a dark secret. This one is a lot of fun. It's violent. It has some really cool sequences and moments. I love the cast, and it's a blast. Oh, and the killers in this, the masks, it's just so unique and cool, and I love it. I love it so much. I hope they come up with a part 2, which I think they're supposed to. Next is Silver Bullet. So this story centers on a small town that's being plagued by mysterious and sadistic murders, and this young boy and his crazy uncle essentially start to piece the mystery together and realize that a werewolf might be involved. I think that the vibes of this one are just great. I love Corey Haim, and even Gary Busey is great. I love their dynamic together, and just the feels of this movie feel perfect for Halloween. I think it's an underrated werewolf movie, and sure, it might have a lot of issues, but I think that it just has that nostalgic feel to it that I need this time of the year. Then we have another werewolf movie that is perfect for Halloween, and that's Ginger Snaps. This is about two sisters who are out one night on a full moon. One of them gets attacked and starts turning into a werewolf, and the other sister has to figure out how to save her. Love this movie so much. It's so funny. It's the perfect allegory for puberty, and there's just so much to this movie aside from the werewolf element. It's so smart, so creative, has an incredibly cool cast and cool werewolf effects, and it's just got those perfect Halloween vibes. Then we have another movie dripping with Halloween vibes, and that's Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow is from director Tim Burton, and it centers on a young police detective played by Johnny Depp who's sent to this little town of Sleepy Hollow, New York to investigate a series of mysterious deaths. And he soon discovers that the town is being haunted by a headless horseman. Next is another tried and true Halloween classic that I'm sure is on everyone's lists every year, and that is Trick or Treat. So this is a horror anthology of 4 stories that interweave throughout the night of Halloween. This one is just filled with so many fun stories, and I love how they all wrap around. There's some exciting, shocking moments, and it introduced us to Sam, who is the most adorable horror villain ever. Next is another werewolf movie, and that is The Cursed. This is from last year, and this is another gothic, atmospheric horror movie, and it's centered on this small town that is essentially cursed with a series of mysterious deaths. And over the course of the film, they start to realize that a mysterious creature might be involved. This one is really surprisingly dark, and it has one of the coolest transformation scenes I've seen in a while. It reminded me of The Thing, and I feel like this movie is really seriously overlooked. Next on my list is a movie that a lot of people might not like, but I love it for several reasons, and that is The Collingswood Story. This is a movie from 2002, and it feels like it. It looks like it. This is a nostalgic watch for me, and it takes place entirely on webcam, so you're getting that computer dial-up sound that I miss and love, and it centers on this couple who are long distance and they're communicating via web chat, and this was pre-FaceTime and all of that, so it feels like you're really looking back on a moment in time between this couple, and the girl starts to uncover the secrets behind the house that she's living in, and she realizes that something grisly might have happened there years prior, and they kind of investigate it together and things go wrong. I love this one because of the constraints of only allowing you to see what the person can see on the computer. It just feels claustrophobic, and I love the slow build-up. It's very much a movie of its time, but I love it for it, and I feel like it was ahead of its time. Next is The Empty Man. So this is a really weird movie, but it's really good. It centers on this detective who's investigating the disappearance of this young girl and the disappearance of other local teens that they think might revolve around this urban legend in their town. As he digs deeper into the mystery, he uncovers something much larger at play. It's just really creepy at times where it goes. I found it very kind of unpredictable, and it's just so much fun. It's such a journey. Then we have House LLC, which is another Halloween favorite. This is about a group of people who are renovating an old hotel to turn it into a haunted attraction. And on the night of its official opening, a bunch of murders happen. So you're finding out what happened by going through their old footage. This one has some of the most creepy moments ever. It's a found footage horror movie, so you really feel like you're in their shoes. And I just remember this movie actually scared me the first time I saw it, where I was like afraid to go to sleep. And for that, it will be a forever favorite of mine. I think that it's very simple and it's a little bit of a slow burn, but the payoff is just phenomenal. It's so good. Then of course, we have Halloween 4, and I'm obviously going to watch all of the Halloween movies. I feel like that's a given, so I'm not going to list all of them, but just know I'm going to watch them. But of them, Halloween 4 is always at the top of my list. It's the one I watched the most growing up as a kid. I did a tier ranking for all of my thoughts on the franchise, but this one centers on Michael Myers' niece, Jamie Lloyd, played by Danielle Harris, and he's basically coming after her. And I love this one because we focus on Jamie Lloyd and her older sister, Rachel, and I just love their dynamic. And this one has the most fall feels to me. Next is Demon Night. So this one is about a man who is on the run from this mysterious stranger because he has this key that can essentially unleash evil onto the world. He takes refuge in this isolated hotel surrounded by a group of misfits and basically has to fend this guy off and his demon friends. The cast in this is incredible. Billy Zane as the lead Demon Knight is fantastic. He's so funny and witty, but also equally terrifying. And I love how he plays with the characters' minds throughout the movie because no one feels safe. And I love the demons that he creates and unleashes on this hotel. And just the fact that they have a way to keep the demons out, but there's an easy way for the demons to bypass that. It's just like, there's so many moments in this movie that I love, and you're just like, get out of there. You just like, it's such a fun, thrilling watch filled with so many fun, memorable moments, and I've loved this movie ever since I was a kid, and I will love it till the day I die. Then we have a found footage classic in The Blair Witch Project. This one is the epitome of found footage horror. It is the one that kind of kick-started the found footage horror craze. It changed the game, and this centers on a group of 3 student filmmakers who head out into the woods to investigate the Blair Witch, and they might find her. What they were able to accomplish was so little, and a lot of that stems in the actual marketing. And when this movie came out, everyone thought it was about real students who disappeared. There's such an eeriness to it because they're lost in the woods. It's a very real fear, and the way things happen in the end where she finds, it's just so scary. I will never get those moments out of my head. And I think that the fall vibes come in very hard with the forest, woodsy element of the story and the witch element, and it's just a perfect Halloween watch. Duh. Then I'm adding a movie I haven't watched in years, but think is a perfect addition to my 31 Nights of Horror, and that is Flatliners. This one has a great 90s star-studded cast. We have Kiefer Sutherland, we have Kevin Bacon, we have Julia Roberts. This is about a group of 5 medical students who realize that they can essentially see what the afterlife is like. They figure out how to stop each other's hearts for a few seconds so that they can see what's on the other side and then bring them back. But of course, that has some ramifications. I haven't seen it in forever, but just that vibe of like dying, seeing death, and being brought back to life is what I want. I feel like that's the perfect Halloween feeling. That is a perfect Halloween vibe, and I'm just excited to revisit it. Then we have another found footage horror movie, Wreck. So this is a Spanish language found footage horror movie that is absolutely terrifying. It's one of the best of all time. It's about a TV film crew who is documenting a local fire station that is called in to check a routine checkup on this old lady at this apartment complex, and when they get there, they get locked in, and they realize that there's some virus going on, and it's traveling quickly throughout the people. This one is so scary. The paranoia and dread in this are just unmatched, and just the way it all culminates in the end is just so terrifying. It's like fast-paced at times, it's shocking, and it's a lot of fun. Then we have Stir of Echoes starring Kevin Bacon. This is about a guy who basically agrees to go under hypnosis one night at a party, and it opens him up to the other world. And he starts having terrifying visions of this ghost. And he decides that it's up to him to figure out what that ghost wants and what happened to the ghost. Kevin Bacon is fantastic. I think it has some truly chilling moments, and the reveal in the final act is just heartbreaking. And I wish that this movie had gotten more love. It unfortunately came out at the same time as The Sixth Sense, so The Sixth Sense kind of got all the attention and glory. But this one, I think, is just as good as The Sixth Sense, and it's got great music. Next, we have Salem's Lot, which is technically a miniseries, but you can watch it all in one go. So this is based on the Stephen King book of the same name. It's directed by Tobe Hooper from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So this is about a guy named Ben Mears. He's a writer who decides to revisit his hometown of Salem's Lot to write his next story. He wants to stay at this infamous haunted house known as the Marston House, but he can't because there's somebody already there. And that person might be a vampire. This one has iconic moments. The music is incredible. The atmosphere is just insane. And there's so many memorable moments, like a boy vampire floating out the window. It will never not be scary to me. And it's unnerving. It's so creepy to watch this small town slowly transform over the course of the movie. And I love it. I love it so much. It's one of my favorites. Then we have another movie I have never seen that I'm excited to finally check out because everybody always talks about how crazy it is, and that is Event Horizon. So this is about a salvage crew that is on a mission to find this ship that disappeared. And when they return, they discover the true mystery of what happened, and it may be darker than anybody has expected or ever expected. I don't know. Sam Neill, he's great. I'll watch him in anything, and everybody always praises this movie. I think it's a very nostalgic watch. It's from 1997, and I recently found it at the thrift store, so I'm excited to check it out. Then we have another one that I think I watched years ago when I was little and don't remember anything about it. It's another Tobe Hooper movie, and it's called The Mangler. This is from 1995. So this is about a mysterious machine at this factory that essentially is killing people. And I'm pretty sure this is based on a Stephen King short story. It's fun, okay? I want to watch a machine called the Mangler tearing people up. It also stars Robert Englund. Next, we have another supernatural favorite of mine, The Changeling. So this is centered on a world-renowned composer who has just suffered a tragic loss of his wife and daughter. He's looking for inspiration for his work, and he decides to move into this house or stay there for a bit of time. And when he gets there, he realizes that he's not alone and that the house might be haunted by a ghost. And over the course of the story, he tries to figure out what this ghost wants. This one has one of the greatest performances by George C. Scott ever. He plays kind of against type here, where he's much more reserved of a character, and we watch as he's grieving the loss of his family, but still trying to figure out what's going on in his house. And there's just so many perfect moments of stillness throughout this, where you're just watching him react to this situation, and there's just some incredibly cool sequences, like one in particular involving a seance it's unreal. It's so creepy. I just think it's a classic that will never get old. Then we have another classic, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. So, fun fact, I haven't actually sat down and watched this movie all the way through. I've only seen bits and parts of it. It's a story that we all know. It's about this guy named Norman Bates who runs this roadside motel, and he dresses up as his mother and kills guests there. That's what I know, but I feel like there's a lot more to the story. I love the show Bates Motel, so I'm excited to head back to the original and see where it all started. And I know I've seen moments of it because they've scared the shit out of me because of the music and just the way things play out, and the whole Norman and his mother relationship is just really unnerving. And I think Anthony Perkins is a great villain because he's so unsuspecting. He seems like such a sweet person, and then you find out he's hiding these dark, terrible urges. So I've added it to my watch list this year. Next, we have a found footage horror that I think is often overlooked and more people need to watch it because it's incredibly cool, and that is Savageland. So this is from 2015, and it's about this small town near the Arizona-Mexico border that was essentially massacred overnight. And there's one suspect that's the only survivor in the town, and he has all these pictures that he took throughout the evening that they think show that he is the killer. So it's set up like a documentary style where they're showing the case of this guy and how he's on trial for the murders, and then they take us through the evening by showing us the footage. And the footage is so haunting. It is some of the creepiest stuff I've ever seen, and I love that that's how the story plays out, where you don't get a whole ton, you don't get to hear anything, you're seeing stuff by glimpses of images, and they're so just unsettling. And I think when you don't get a whole lot, the situation is even scarier. And then I'm adding on some new additions that will be premiering this October. First up is VHS 85. This is premiering on Shudder October 6th, and this is the latest installment in the VHS series. So this is an anthology horror series. It's centered on 5 different stories from different directors. And this one is taking us through stories set in 1985. I can't get enough of the 80s. I can't get enough of the VHS series. A lot of the stories are hit or miss, but overall I think it's a fun, good time. And lastly, we have House LLC Origins, The Carmichael Manor. This is premiering on Shudder on October 30th, and it's the latest installment in the House LLC franchise. So this one is centered on a group of investigators who are staying in this house to investigate an unsolved series of grisly murders that happen there, and then I think they disappear. Say no more. I'm in. So there you have it. Those are the 31 horror movies I plan to watch this October. Let me know what movies you're planning to watch this October. If there's any movies on my list that you're excited about too, let me know in the comments. And thank you so much for watching, guys. Happy Halloween!